live from the road. Welcome to episode 96 of the Slip and Weave podcast. And my guest, a recurring guest, Indeya Smith, flyweight contender. Thank you so much for coming back on, Indeya.
For having me. Thanks for having me.
So the last time we talked, you had just gotten, I would say, arguably the biggest win of your career against Sulem Urbina. What's it been like for you since then? Has anything been different for you, even just in how you feel in training, or has anything changed for you?
At least in training, I'm like, okay, I gotta step it up. If I could go up against Urbina, that means, bigger challenges are coming my way. So I gotta be on my A game. I gotta be ready for it.
So if anything, it's just been like a further motivator to know that, as you're climbing that ladder, you feel like, all right, I got to push that much harder.
I really do. Because, like with Urbina, she only had 2 losses before me. I was her third. So it was like, okay, if I could do that against Urbina, they're going to expect a lot out of me. She was quite a contender. So I have to be able to come up against some other contenders now.
Is there anything tactically that you feel like you learned from that fight about yourself, about boxing in general, or is there anything that you're working on in the gym specifically?
Typically, one thing I did notice that the commentator said, and one thing I have been trying to work on is like my legs, spreading my feet. So I've been definitely working on closing up the gap in my feet so they're not so wide, so there's more power on my punches. So I've been working on that and just more head movement.
What's it like now for you? This has got to be at least your third or fourth time fighting in New York City, right?
My 4th time in New York, yes.
That's crazy. And not being from New York, do you feel like New York is becoming almost like your hometown to fight in?
That's what it feels like at this point. Going there 4 times, it feels like New York is my spot. I've been to Times Square, I've been around now.
Yeah, and I think especially the kind of fights that you deliver, I think the fans really are appreciating what you do. I mean, you could tell from both fights that I saw you in that, you just bring it, and I think the fans really appreciate that, a fighter that really puts it all out there.
Yeah, I like to bring that energy, and that's something I'm trying to make sure I stay consistent with. Every fight, I want people to know, hey, she's gonna come to fight. She's gonna bring that energy. She's gonna throw punches, and it's not gonna be no tit for tat fight with me. It's gonna be a fight. It's gonna be a brawl.
I'm not gonna lie, you're looking mean right now, India. How is camp been as a whole?
It's been good. It's been good. We've been training. We've been upping it. All the cardio we've been doing, like I said, with the head movement, getting my feet closer together. So it's been very intensive. It's been very intensive this camp.
So your opponent is going to be Miyo Yoshida. It's another opponent that is naturally bigger than you, and I know that that's probably something that you've gotten used to at this point. But I guess at this point in your career, is 115 pounds like the weight that you're going to be campaigning at for the most part?
Most part, it's the weight that I've been able to get the most fights at. Because when I started, we were fighting at 112. That was the weight class we wanted to do it at, but it was very hard to get fights at 112. Eventually, though, we want to get down to 108, but right now 115 seems to be the sweet spot for me to actually get fights.
Do you know anything about this opponent? Do you know anything about her style? Have you gotten to watch any footage of her at all?
There's not a lot of footage on her, honestly, and she's only fought in Japan before this. So I see like she likes to come in, like I like to come in. So I feel like this is going to be a bit of a brawl. But again, I don't know what she's doing in camp. I mean, she was actually at my fight with Urbina. She was there that night. So she got to see me. So who knows what her game plan will be for me. So I'm training for all styles. I'm training for someone who's going to box. I'm training for someone who's going to come in. So whichever way, I feel like I'm going to be ready for it.
Do you know if she was at your fight with potentially like the idea being, okay, I'll fight Salem after this fight?
Probably. I would think that would be the expectation because I know I wasn't there, sit there to win. I was the B side. I was definitely supposed to be the person who was going to lose that night. So I'm sure she was more so looking at Sulem. But I mean, as the round progressed, I'm sure they were like, okay, this is the one we got to look at right now. Mm-hmm.
You've had multiple like experiences at this point of being the B side. Do you feel like you're the B side in this fight? Not do you feel like skill wise are you the B side? Like do you feel like promotionally you're the B side or like how do you feel like that's different now since the Sulem fight? I guess is what I'm asking.
I feel like for sure I'm the B side. I mean, she is signed, I'm still not signed or anything like that. I feel like she is a former world champion. She lost her belt her last fight, I believe. So she's definitely still the contender. She's definitely still the A side of the fight. But regardless, people still know that despite what my record is, that I'm also a contender. So I feel like the B side doesn't really hold as much weight with me because I am a contender. They know I'm not just here to just fall on the floor. Like I'm here to fight.
I guess what are you hoping to show everybody with this one?
With this fight, I want to show people that I myself am a contender, that I can be the A side, that I could bring the fights, that I could put on a show for everyone. So with this fight, because it's actually supposed to be streamed on Days In, so it's gonna be a much larger audience, So it's gonna be my chance to show a much larger audience what I can do, what I can bring to the table, that I can actually put on a show for people.
Yeah, I mean that's a crazy experience now to be if it is going to be streamed on DAZN. I mean, that's a huge upgrade. Are you excited about that? Is that like one of those big moments in your career?
Really is like when I saw that because Boxing Insider they released it on their page. I wasn't told. I just saw it on their page that we're gonna be on the zone, and I was like, wait, what? That has to be a mistake. I was like, this is such a big opportunity for me. This doesn't just come around every day, to be on the zone. So I'm feeling the pressure and I'm excited for it because this is an opportunity for me. This is my chance to show people what I can do.
Right, and if anything, at least prior to the Salem fight, right? Whereas now, I'm sure the expectations of you are higher of fans of a lot of people of just like that, they are going to expect a certain quality performance for you because she was such a high ranked contender.
They're definitely gonna want to see some skills. They're not gonna just want to see, just us going tit for tat. They're gonna want to see, okay, how did she beat Salim? And that's what I'm gonna show them next Thursday.
I know that the same weekend that you fight, I think it's the Saturday after you fight, Marlena Esparza is going to be coming back. I don't think she's fought in a little bit. Do you have any thoughts on her? Is that a fight that you'd be interested in at least at some point down the line?
Oh, definitely, because I feel like if I really want to say I'm the best, I have to beat the best. So I know she's definitely gonna be down the line for me. But I want to get a better record before I hit up with her because I want our fight to mean something. I want it to actually be a fight of, oh, okay, Marlon and India, oh, that's gonna be trouble. I want it to mean something when we go up against each other.
Right. That's cool. I like the way you put that. I want it to really mean something when we go up. I've never heard it put like that. That's cool.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't want some person that Marlon's fighting. No, I want it to be like, oh, India and Marlon. Oh, that's
Esparza versus Smith. That's what you want.
I'm Rodriguez now, so I finally officially got it legally changed because I am
Oh,
married.
okay.
But I got to get all my paperwork in order. That's why people still call me Smith. But I am Rodriguez.
Well, congratulations. Do you want me to put that as your name in the title of the show?
If you can, I would definitely like that. Yes, India Rodriguez.
Cool. Because I had looked it up online and I wasn't sure, so I was just putting what was on your box rec. But yeah, I'll be happy to change it for sure. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Um, the other thing I have to ask you about, just because it's right around the corner, do you have any thoughts on Tank Davis versus Ryan Garcia? It's one of the biggest fights in boxing, and it's been getting built up now for what seems like 5 years.
Uh, I mean, with that fight, honestly, I don't know because they're both really good fighters, and I just think it's gonna be just a hell of a night. Excuse my language. This is gonna be a crazy night. It's because they both have so much to lose and so much to gain with this fight. So it's hard to say who's gonna win or who's gonna lose because they're both such great fighters. They both come at it, so it's gonna be interesting to see that fight. What do you think about that fight? Who you got?
I'm leaning towards Tank for a lot of different reasons. I just think Ryan fights with that chin up in the air enough that I just feel like Tank is going to see that. And even if it takes 7, 8 rounds, he'll land the shot. Um, but I give Ryan a really good chance because he's so much bigger. I mean, he's just. I was at the first press conference, and that was like that's part of what you're looking for, right? Is how do they look next to each other? And Ryan, no weight cut, no nothing. They're just announcing the fight. He was just it was like a middleweight and a junior lightweight. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, big difference. Big difference. Yeah.
So skill wise, I definitely see Tank as like one of the guys in the sport. But Ryan's very fast, he's very powerful, and he's just a lot bigger. So I think that's part of what makes it an exciting fight.
Yeah, I could definitely see that as a good factor. Like when I fought Micaiah in New York, she
Yeah.
was so much, even though we were going at it, like that definitely was a factor in why I lost that fight. Like she was so much bigger and like I could definitely feel more of the weight of her punches because we were fighting at 118 that fight. I came in at like 115. She came in 118.5 or closer to one. It was, much higher. And that makes a big difference.
I also and tell me if I'm wrong about this, but it also feels different when you land shots on a bigger fighter. Like you're used to a certain kind of reaction at a certain weight, and then when you move up, I forgot. I think it was I was watching an interview one time with Shane Mosley where he was talking about, he had never fought at 154, and then he fought Winky Wright, and he was like, I started hitting that guy. It was like I was hitting a bag of sand. Like it just had no impact on him. I was just swinging as hard as I could. It just wasn't doing anything. It is kind of like that, you know?
It's different. Like I feel like I was catching her with some good shots, but I'm sure they weren't like how she would feel when she would spar with bigger people. I'm sure she sparred bigger people than me, so it was probably like, oh, that's cool, it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess the last advantage I would give to Ryan or to give to Tank is that they're doing it at 136. Ryan's already moved up to 140. So now he's cutting back down another couple pounds. So even if he's a bigger guy, if he's drained, I just don't know how he's going to take Tank's power.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. If you have to cut so much and all that before the fight, it can make you feel very drained. It really can. That's why I try to be on weight at least a week or so before, so I don't have to feel like if you feel awful when you're dehydrated and you haven't eaten and all that. And even though you get a day to kind of recuperate, it's not really the same.
So
So
you kind of get on weight the week of the fight.
I try to be on weight at least a week before, a week or two before. I try to be like on weight or a little underweight because I don't want to be stressing about my weight when I'm going over. And also, since this is for money, this is not amateurs anymore. This is money now. I'm not trying to play those games with my money. So I like to be on weight way before.
Because I've heard kind of both approaches where if you can get down to the weight early and just sort of sustain for a bit, but then there's also I think some people just fight at a weight that's too low for them. So they wait until the day before because they can't maintain that weight they're getting down to without it affecting them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For some people, it's definitely harder to get down because, like you said, they're fighting at a weight class much smaller than they should because that's just a better chance for them. And at least for me, I feel like 115 is it's a good weight for me because I usually sit around 117, 118. I try to stay under 120. But I eventually want to get down to 108, and I can see myself maybe being in that situation, when I'm trying to fight at 108. It's gonna be interesting when I get to that part of my career, trying to get down to 108, how I'm gonna do that.
What have you fought at 112 before?
Yeah, my pro debut, I fought at 112. In the amateurs, I fought at 112 for a little bit. Uh, yeah, yeah. I
Do
think
you
my
feel a difference? Do you feel a difference between the two?
between the two, it's definitely a lot easier to get down to 115 than it is 112. I will say that. Like maintaining 112 is a lot harder than trying to maintain 115. It is. So I could definitely see a struggle when I start getting closer to 108. But when I get closer to that, I think it's just going to have to be a big diet change and just an overall perspective change. Because I don't like to cut weight so close to a fight. I like to do it gradually, and I like to be on weight at least a week or two before. I just think that's just better for me, just overall health wise and mentally, because it's just hard. It's hard when you're hungry, and it's hard when you're dehydrated. So I'm not trying to do all that.
Yeah, I mean, and I think there's always like the old school shit of like, okay, you're gonna have a size advantage from doing that, but what do you ultimately lose physically if you just do that too hard? Um, do you feel like having moved now up to 115 that it'll be harder because you've had a couple of fights at this weight?
Um, I think as long as I have enough advance notice, I could do it. I just have to get into that mindset. So it could be a little tricky when I finally get another fight at 112. But as long as I have good notice, I could do it. I can do it.
I guess the last thing I'll ask you is assuming you win this fight, if you are to win this fight, what are you looking to do with the rest of 2023?
2023. If I win this fight, which that's the game plan for next week, we're looking to go for titles. So I need to get this fight a good win, at least another 2 wins, and then I could go for a title. So that's the game plan for this year is to try to get a title.
And would the goal ultimately be for that title to be at 108, or are you just kind of looking to put yourself in position for as many opportunities as possible?
As many opportunities as possible. If
Yeah.
I could be both like Krista and have a couple titles of different, that would be so cool. That would be really cool. But right now, I'm just going for any opportunity.
I remember now. That reminds me because I was going to ask you. Do you have any thoughts on? They just announced Franchon Cruz Desarn versus Savannah Marshall.
Yeah, that's gonna be interesting. That's gonna be an interesting fight. It's going. I feel like Marshall. She's a really good fighter. She's good, and so is Cruz. So it's gonna be a tough fight. I think it's gonna be a tough fight for Cruz to earn, but I think she could pull it out if she studies how Clarissa went at her. This last one, she could do it, but she's gonna have to really be training hard because she's not no easy fighter either.
Yeah, I think that's actually like a really solid matchup for women's boxing because I
Yeah,
know just like when you get to the lower weights, but in men's boxing too, the talent pool gets a little bit smaller, and then in women's boxing, when you get up into the higher weights, there's less, big fights to be made. So I think this is one of the better ones that they could make.
yeah, they definitely can. I feel like at least with women's boxing, because I think with male boxing, they always talking about how the guys don't want to fight each other and all that. At least with females, there's never a problem with that. We
Yeah.
all trying, we're all trying to fight.
Well, India, good luck with this next one. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be there. Unfortunately, I was really I'm out of town that week. But good luck with everything and that fight. I'll be rooting for you. Is there anybody you want to shout out before we wrap it up?
I want to shout out my coach Mario Herrera, who's been my coach for the last 10 years and pushing me so hard with this sport. Like he has really, I would not be doing this if he didn't say, "Hey, I think you could be I think you could do this." I would not be here if he didn't say that. And also a big shout out to my husband, Benjamin Rodriguez. He's always in my corner. Literally, he works my corner. He comes with us to these fights. He gives me my water. He make sure I get up in the morning to do my run. So he's right there with me this whole process. So those are the main ones.
Yeah, it takes a village to make a champion. India Smith, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, guys.